Prathamesh sir, good afternoon.
Prathama sir, please begin. We are live.
So it's my immense pleasure to introduce our today's expert, Dr. Rahul Randesan. He will be giving a talk within around research paper quality expectations to match. Opportunity for us to invite Dr. Rahul sir. Sir, sir is working as associate professor and program head in MBA Operations Management, Schools of Energy Management, MIT World Peace University. Sir has a vast experience, teaching experience of 17 years for UG and PG management. Then, sir has also served for industry for 3 years. Sir has total 12 papers on his credit, out of which 4 are Scopus Index, 4 are published in Scopus Index. Sir also attended, participated in total 18 conferences, out of which 11 were international conferences and 7 were national conferences. Sir has wrote total 3 books, and he has also delivered a talk among many places. So sir has delivered talk, total 19 talks sir has delivered. Then sir has also part of international conference as a session chair. And sir is also a reviewer of reputed international Scopus Index publication, like Indra publications, Indra publication, plus today's webinar, research paper quality expectations to match a global standard. Now I'd like to request our today's expert, Dr. Rahul sir, to start this session. Hand over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Prathamesh sir. In between, if you find any questions or if there is any technical issue, please communicate because students will be, I think, on Facebook Live, and here we are only 3 members in the this Geo Meet. So if there are any issues with the students, technical issues like audibility or if they are
Yes,
not able
sure,
to,
sir.
please communicate so that we can take a review of this. So, very good afternoon to all the students, faculty members who are working at Department of Automobile and Mechanical Engineering Department, Parul Institute of Technology, Parul University. I am very glad to interact with all the students and faculty members of Parul University Institute of Technology. And this particular topic, research paper publication, wherein we will be discussing upon the quality expectations to match the global standards. Being a part of research team at Sardar Patel College of Engineering, where I was doing my PhD, whatever experiences I am having, whatever experiences I have throughout my research paper writing journey, I will try to just share with you all, maybe students or faculty members. This is just the experience sharing. This is not something teaching or guiding. It is a experience sharing session, we can say, so that whatever experiences we have, we can deliver to the new next generation, and next generation can gain something from this, which will ease their work, which will they will try to learn from whatever mistakes we have committed, so that their journey will be easy to write the papers and publish in reputed journals. So I am Dr. Rahul Dange. I am associate professor and program head for MBA Operations Management at MIT World Peace University, Pune in Maharashtra. This is the outline for today's presentation. We'll be going through very basics. What is a research paper? What are the different elements, structure of research paper? What is the peer review process? How to identify which journals we should consider as quality journals, which are the reputed publications. Tentatively, how much time the journals take, right from the time we submit the paper to final publication. Then different indexing mechanisms, indexing platforms which are reputed globally. Uh, then we'll talk about something related to H index, citations, I-10 index, and some important points which any person who is writing research paper, he should take into account while we are writing, and what mistakes normally people make, and how to avoid those particular mistakes. Then talking about some guidelines related to writing literature review paper, and some experience sharing with respect to the review process, and how to respond to the review, whatever we have received, review results we have received, how to uh, how to go for addressing each and every issue which is raised by the reviewer. So that will be a part of our experience sharing. So let us start with the very basics, that is about the research paper. All of you must be knowing, but this can be just a revision. You must have read some research papers. Some of you have already published research papers. Some of you have written research papers. So what we exactly do when we write a research paper, it is a common form of academic writing. This is a formal definition in which the author or multiple authors, sometimes we have two authors, three authors, up to four, five authors we find normally in some of the journals, some of the research papers, wherein about a particular topic we try to look at some information, take some stand on that particular topic, and then we try to provide certain support, some evidences, so that whatever stand we have taken, whatever opinion we have about the particular topic, how we can justify that stand with some references, with some maybe case studies conducted, maybe some experiments we have conducted, some observations we have, some interviews taken up, some questionnaires circulated, feedbacks taken up from the people. So based upon different types of research work, based upon different types of research we are carrying out, uh, what is the topic of our interest, what is our opinion, our philosophy related to that particular topic, and whatever stand we are taking related to the topic, how we can go for justifying, how we can provide the evidences to prove that whatever stand we have taken, how we can prove that particular stand. And in continuation with this, we can also give some guideline about what are the limitations of our research work, and if somebody wants to continue research in that particular domain, what will be the future scope of research, what additional things the future researchers they can take it up, that this entire uh, piece of writing, this entire piece of information, what we are putting in the form of a standard format, which is normally we will be discussing about the structure of any standard research paper. Every journal they will be coming up with some standard guidelines for authors to prepare the research paper. So putting this all information into the standard format, and then trying to publish it, so that is nothing but the basic idea behind this particular research paper. So this is a beautiful diagram which defines, which gives more clarity upon the structure of research paper, the various elements of research paper, and the amount of information that will be incorporated into every element of the research paper. So you must be seeing the diagram in front of your screen. On the right hand side, there are different elements right from title to the references. So we have a title which is giving a brief idea about what the research is all about. So research paper title is one of the important element which in brief gives idea about what the research is all about. After title we have the abstract. So the shape which is indicated for abstract itself gives guideline about the beginning of the abstract. It should be generalized, then from generalized it should come to the actual research what we are going to conduct or we have conducted. So from generalized it will be narrowing down to the actual research what we are interested in, and then again at the end of the abstract we have to go on generalizing whatever research outcomes we have, how we can map those research outcomes to the generalized way. So the diagram itself indicates the shape which is mentioned for or indicated for abstract itself gives the idea about how we should start the abstract, how we should be at the center of abstract, and how should come to the end part of our abstract. Then comes the next part as an introduction. So when we talk about the introduction, again the shape indicates how our introduction should start with. So again in introduction we should start with the broader view, with the generalized way of defining the particular concept, the domain in which we are carrying out the research work, what a research has been done till now, and then how we are trying to come up to actual research, how we can go for narrowing down the concept and try to find out what is the research gap or what is the research problem, and uh, how we are going to deal with that particular research problem. So that is the introduction section, in which from generalized we should come to the we should narrow down ourselves to the actual contents of our research work. Then comes the body of our research, in which all the methodologies, tools and techniques, whatever we are adopting, actual work, whatever we are carrying out for the research work, these all methodologies, the tools and techniques, data analysis, data collection, these all will be there in the inside body. Maybe some experimentation, manufacturing of the setup, maybe some material specifications. So depending upon what type of research we are carrying out, the body will be consisting of the actual work which is carried out for the research. Then at the end, again we have discussion. So discussion, if we look at the shape, again it starts with what we have achieved through this particular research work, and how we can go for broadening that particular concept, that particular outcomes what we have got, to the generalized way. So to the entire domain, how we can go for generalizing those particular outcomes of our research, so that we have to incorporate into the discussion. And finally we will be having the references. So again, you can see the same introduction, body and discussion. So from general to the particular, in body we are sticking ourselves, we are not deviating. So whatever is the scope of our research, we are confined ourselves to the scope of our research work. And again in the discussion, from that particular confined scope, we are again going for generalizing our idea related to that research paper. Now, one by one, we'll try to discuss about the various contents. Everybody is knowing, so again, we'll rush up through this particular content. So, title of research paper. This is one of the significant part. Every nowadays, especially because of the online search engines, like we if we want to identify some research papers published in a particular domain, normally we go to Google and put some keywords and try to see which are the research papers they have been published. Or we can go to a particular journal site, maybe we will go for Springer site, we'll go for Emerald site, we'll go for Elsewhere site, and in search we'll try to put some keywords. Then whatever research papers they have been published related to that keyword, these all will be identified first of all based upon the title of the research paper. So title of the research paper is one of the identity for your research paper. The research work whatever you have carried out, in the fewest possible words, your title is going to describe that to the audience. And this is this particular title, if it is containing the words which are relevant to the research work, the words which are having certain methodology, some tools which are catchy, which are normally people will be putting into the search engines. So more likely it is possible that your paper will come uh, to those particular audience. It will be listed in those particular search engines. So uh, this particular title, it should not be too long, it should not be too short. Normally the journals, they specify some guidelines about title, 8 to 12 words, that should be the length of your title. It should not be very small with 2 3 words or 4 words. It should not be like a paragraph. So title, it should be descriptive, it should be informative, it should not be very short, it should not be very long, but it should be adequate to provide the sufficient information related to your research work, the methodology whatever you are adopting, and what is the innovation, what is the originality of your research work, that should get reflected from your title. The next part is about the abstract. So when we talk about the abstract, so if you have seen the research paper, after title what comes is the abstract. So most of the research articles, most of the journals, they prefer in a single paragraph, maybe around 200 to 300 words, some guidelines they will be mentioning that your abstract should be for these many words. Within that particular words, you need to put into your information related to the entire summarizing your paper. So right from introduction to conclusion part, whatever you are going to describe into your research paper, that needs to be summarized into a single paragraph summary, maybe around 200 to 300 words. So after title, all electronic platforms, they will be searching, that they will be scanning is the abstract, so relevant to whatever the people they are putting into their search engines. If the abstract is getting connected to that particular keywords, maybe your paper is going to get reflected into the search engines. Also, uh, most of the journals which are charging the audience to download a particular paper. So paper is published. If I want to read the paper, I need to pay something, and then I need to download the paper. But in that case also, title and abstract, title, abstract, and keywords. These are the things which are freely available. So we are not supposed to pay anything for reading the abstract of any particular paper. It may be any reputed journal. The paper may not be available to download freely, but the title, abstract, and keywords, they are freely available. uh, this is just to give idea to the readers what the paper is all about, because once the reader will go through your abstract, he will come to know whether this particular paper is of my interest or not, whether the information what I am trying to get from this particular paper will be available in this paper or not. If he is convinced with the abstract that this particular information is important from his research point of view, then only he will pay for that particular paper and try to download it. So this is like uh, we go for any product to market, to reach to the customer, so we put some advertisement. Looking at the advertisement, people have some perception about our product, and if the perception is good, people go for buying our product. Similar way, if people should read our paper, if our paper should be downloaded by the researchers, it should be read by the researchers. Abstract is one of the significant part, which is a promotional material, which is giving the idea about our research paper, and that's why we should put more focus on how we are writing our abstract. Normally every journal will give their guidelines, but this is the format which is preferred by or this is the standard format given by Emerald journals. And if we write our abstract in this particular format, maybe if your journal of interest, they are demanding a single page or single paragraph summary as abstract, then you can just put remove those particular headings and try to make this particular paragraph. But if we initially draft our abstract in this particular format, we make sure that nothing is missed. So we try to incorporate what is the purpose of a research paper, what is the design, research design, the methodology we are using, what type of approach we are using for carrying out the research work, what are our findings, what are the limitations of this particular research work, what are the practical implications of this research work. So based upon the research, some papers will have practical implications, so we need to incorporate social implications. What will be the effect of this particular research on society, some societal needs, some issues in the society. So if at all is the anything is there, we can incorporate those particular things. And finally, how this particular paper is different from whatever papers, whatever literature available already, how this is going to distinguish itself from others. So what is new, what is the originality, what is the novelty which is incorporated into this. So if we try to incorporate all these points in our abstract, then our abstract will be, we can say, it is a it will be containing everything what a reader will be requiring or what a reader will be expecting from the abstract. The most important part, even though the abstract comes at the beginning of the paper, the abstract has to be written after completion of the entire research paper, because these all points we need to satisfy. If we want to incorporate our findings, if we want to incorporate our research implications, limitations, then unless and until our research paper is completely written, the entire research paper is ready, we will not be able to write our abstract. So you must have seen many international conferences or conferences. First of all, they give some deadline for submission of the abstract, and then submission of the full paper is afterwards. So it is not like you will write first abstract and then submit it, and then you will go for writing the entire research paper. The research paper has to be written first, completed, then you should be able to write your abstract, and then abstract is to be submitted only for their review process. Why they invite the abstract initially, so that reading the abstract they will come to know what are the contents of your research paper. Instead of going for a 10-20 pages research paper in a single page, they are getting the summary to just identify whether that particular research paper is suitable for the conference, whether that research paper is having adequate material, adequate information which is required for the specific conference or not. It is not like we should write something as abstract, submit it, and then we should start writing the research paper. So research paper has to be ready before we start with the abstract. We write the abstract. Then next comes the keywords. So under the keywords, maybe 3 to 5. These are the standard maximum 6 keywords we can specify for any research paper. Again, keywords are very important from two different perspectives. One, the readers, whatever the primary, secondary keywords they will be putting into the search engines. If those keywords are matching with whatever keywords you have put for your research paper, automatically your paper will get highlighted into the search database search engines. So that is one benefit of putting appropriate keywords to get more readability, to get more viewers for your research paper, because it will be identified easily by the search engines, because your keywords will be matching with the requirements of the reader. So that is the first important benefit of having appropriate keywords. Second important benefit of having appropriate keywords is, whenever you submit your research paper, this research paper will be going for the review process. Whenever the journal is identifying the reviewers who will be having adequate knowledge, or the people who are having expertise in the specific domain of your research work, how they will be identifying, the identification of this will be through the keywords. So if your keywords which have been put into your research paper, they are matching with the keywords whatever are normally, whenever any expert gets registered himself with any journal as a reviewer, they ask for some area of specialization or area of interest, area of expertise. So these particular keywords, whatever the researcher, whatever the reviewer, he has entered into as his area of interest, his area of expertise, if those keywords are matching with your research paper keywords, automatically this particular matching will send your research paper to the appropriate reviewer, so that your paper will reach to the reviewer who has actually expertise in that particular domain. If your keywords are not appropriate, maybe your research paper will go to somebody who has specified that particular interest, but he is not uh, putting appropriate keywords, getting readers is one benefit, and getting the appropriate reviewer for your paper, that can be the another benefit for having your keywords right. Then next section is about the introduction of your paper. As we have seen in the diagram, we should start with the generalized subject area, and then narrow down ourselves to the confined area for research work, the particular area for research. We should try to mention whatever the literature available, whatever the previous research carried out in the specific area, what is the research gap, what research problems or questions we have framed, and we should give a brief idea about the various sections which are present in our research paper, that how, what will be the like in our presentation we started with outline of our presentation. Similarly, in the introduction we should go for giving a brief guideline about what different contents our research paper will be included with. Next, and one of the important element of research paper is about the literature review or literature survey. So this particular this section, literature review section, is considered to be one of the most important section, because your literature, your research paper, before you start your research, what different literature you have referred to in that particular domain, in specific research area, and based upon what a research has been carried out, what information you have collected, what research gaps you have identified, which papers you have referred. So the more extensive literature review you carry out, your research will be more specific. Your research questions, your research gap, that will be more confined to a specific problem. So this is one of the section which will be reviewed by the editorial board before sending it to the reviewers. So they, once they come to know, or the editorial board, if their observation says that literature review is not carried out sufficiently, maybe there itself they can give the suggestion to the author that you carry out a literature review extensive and then resubmit your paper. So uh, this is particular section which creates one impression about your paper, that how much extensively you have referred to the research which is already carried out by other researchers in your domain, maybe in last 10 years, 20 years, 15 years. So you can specify number of years you have referred different journals and research articles. Again, what type of research articles you are referring to, this is also very important. Normally the standard journals globally, or internationally, the standard publishing, they prefer your journals, your identification and selection of journals should be the standard journals from which you should be having your research papers or the literature that has been referred to. So importance of literature review, if we talk about, this is important because it indicates that what other researchers they have discovered. It is normally quite long. It depends upon how much research has been previously done in that area. If your area is some area on which there is lot of research, always it is going on for many years, you will find a lot of material available, research material, literature available in that domain. But if the area is very novel, it is something innovation, then maybe very few articles, very few literature will be available in that domain. So depending upon your research area, how many journals, how many research papers they will be available, that may be varying. So we cannot have any standardization like for every research paper we must have some thousand papers that should be referred or that should be available. Depending upon the area, somewhere you may have abundant literature available, somewhere there may be scarcity of literature, and you will not find much of the literature which is already published by the researcher, because the area may be very innovative or something which is very new area. Then talking about the main body, in this case, this will be different for different research which we are carrying out. If somebody is carrying out research in mechanical engineering, maybe he will be fabricating some machine, then he will be testing. So in this case, the material selection, the fabrication work, different processes which are carried out, then assembly of your machine, then whatever testing you have carried out, the results of your testing, then maybe optimization, and then how you can go for refinement, some maintenance aspects of the machine. There can be a number of parameters which we can identify. If somebody is doing some research work in pharmaceutical industries, maybe related to some effect of any particular medicine over some patients or some respondents, then there the trials which have been taken, the observations, the various respondents, the questionnaire feedback from the people. So this particular main body will be different for different researchers based upon what type of research we are carrying out. There can be different methods, there can be different materials, there can be different ways of carrying out the research work. So all these things will be included into this main body of our research work. And finally, how we have started and where we have finished. So this entire research journey that we have to incorporate into the main body. Then last part of our research paper is discussion. Under discussion, there will be various heads, various elements which we need to incorporate. One is the result. So finally, what results we have got, that we need to, maybe in tabular format or some graphs, we can put those particular results in some diagrammatic way. we can represent those results into this result section. Under discussion, what is the significance of these particular results, how we can correlate these results with the practical applications or whatever the area of interest for that particular research work. Then the discussion part and limitations and future scope part. So under conclusion, we'll try to summarize whatever results we have got, how this particular, what is the meaning of this particular results we have got, what are our findings, how these findings can be correlated with whatever similar kind of studies they have been carried out earlier, and what can be the alternative ways of carrying out this particular research work. So that can be the conclusion part. And limitations and future scope, what research we have carried out, what were the limitations, and if somebody wants to carry out this particular research work, what will be our suggestion. It is always this particular discussion part is also referred, or this is under scrutiny very uh, very carefully, because your results, they will be giving some new direction. Your results is nothing but what outcomes you have got from your research work. So that is one of the important part of your research. Under discussion, simply you have got some result, that is not sufficient. How you are going to explain those particular results, how you are going to explain and discuss the results, how you are going to have your interpretations of the result in the context of the research we are carrying out. Then how you are going to conclude your research paper, and whether your research is giving some new ways, new directions for future researchers. That is also one of the important part, because any research, it should not be ending, it should be having open end, it should be open ended. Somebody should take your outcomes, and your outcomes must be input for some new research which is carried out in that particular domain. Then comes the references. Normally every journal, they will specify in what type, in what format the references are to be put. So this is one APS style, how we write the references, the author name, in bracket we write the year, title of article, title of journal, volume, then issue number, the page numbers, first and last page. So uh, different formats, different methodologies, different structures. Every journal, they will be specifying what type of abstract this referencing they will be requiring. Accordingly, we need to put the references. So we have to, the important thing is, before you submit paper to any particular journal, the first thing what you have to read carefully is the instructions to the authors. One by one, all the instructions we need to read carefully and try to incorporate those instructions as it is, as per their standards, so that our paper will not deviate from the instructions whatever we have. Then next part is related to this is all about the research paper. Then research paper we are going to submit to some journal. So what do you mean by journal? So journal is nothing but some academic platform, or the platform in which we are trying to disseminate what are the latest developments, latest trends in a particular area of research. And on a common platform, multiple researchers will come together and try to publish their research work. So journal is a common platform on which this particular research work we are going to publish. So 1665, the first academic research journal that was published by Royal Society London. We talk about peer-reviewed journal or refereed journal, in which the article which have been submitted by the researcher, it will get examined by the people who have expertise in that particular area of research, and then only this research paper will get published after their scrutiny, after their examination. So those journals we call it as a peer-reviewed journals. Normally, if we see the peer review process, so this is like you submit the paper, and there are uh, multiple obstacles in the form of the peer reviewers. These all are there will be different stages: editorial stage, review stage 1, review stage 2, review stage 3, finally the proofreading. Everywhere there will be some modifications, there will be some alterations, there will be some suggestions, some addition, some deletion. All is going to happen till you finally get satisfied, or you satisfy all the requirements for the particular journal and your paper gets accepted. The standard peer review process, this is from Taylor and Francis. So step number one, editorial board will be receiving the paper. The author will be submitting the paper through whatever platform they will be having. So many of the journals, they have their own platforms through which online you can submit your research paper. Mostly they prefer you should submit the paper in the Word file or maybe PDF. Then once the editorial board will receive the paper, first editorial board will go through the paper, try to find out whether the paper is matching with the aims and objectives of the journal, because every journal is having their own scope, their own aims and objectives. So if the paper is not fitting to the aims and objectives, they will simply send back the paper stating that you should submit the paper to some appropriate journal. If they find that the paper is appropriate for that journal's aims and scope, then they will try to identify some reviewers which are expert in that particular domain, and then they will try to send your paper to those reviewers. Initially they will send the invitation to the reviewers. If the reviewers are accepting your invitation, that invitation from editorial board, the paper will be sent. Now whenever the invitation to the reviewer is sent, again along with the invitation, full paper is not sent, but the abstract is sent, title and abstract, it is sent to the reviewer. So reviewer will also go through the abstract, see the title. If he feels that he can review that particular paper by looking at the abstract, then only he will accept the invitation. If he finds that the abstract is not matching to whatever expertise he is having, he will say, I don't find myself suitable for reviewing this particular paper, and he will reject that invitation. So again, the importance of abstract we have discussed earlier. So your abstract, if it is giving clear idea about the research paper, the reviewer will also get impressed and he will accept the invitation and try to review your paper. Once the invitation is accepted, the editor will send the research paper to the reviewers. Normally the reviewer will take maybe 1 or 2 months to review the paper, send the comments to the editorial board. Editorial board will go through the comments, try to pass on the comments to the author. If there is revision suggested, the author will again go for the revisions, again resubmit the paper by incorporating those revisions. Again the editorial board will try to identify some reviewers. The first preference will be given to the reviewers who have already reviewed the paper, so that whatever suggestions they have given, whether those suggestions have been incorporated or not, that can be cross-checked. If that reviewer is denying the invitation, then new reviewers, they will be identified. This process will continue till either the paper is going for acceptance or the paper is given the review result as reject the paper. So if there are, let us say, 3 to 4 reviewers, and out of 4 reviewers, 3 are saying paper can be accepted and 1 is saying rejected, then maybe paper will get accepted. But if 3 are saying reject and 1 is saying accept, the paper will be rejected. So based upon the majority of the reviewers, the decision will be taken. And once the acceptance has been conveyed, there can be some minor modifications or some drafting requirements, formatting requirements, after which the paper will get into production. First the paper will get published online, and afterwards that is going to get incorporated into some issue and volume as per the availability of the papers in that issue and volume. This is another review process from Willy. Again, the block diagram is different, but basically the steps are same. Right from submission to the editorial board, then reviewers, then the review result, either accepted or rejected, and minor if there are revisions, again the loop will continue, and finally the paper will go for publication. The process may be different or by different journals, 2 reviewers, 3 reviewers, 4 reviewers, that will may be varying. But basically, under this peer review, what people are going to identify is whether the paper is matching the topics and the scope, the formatting requirements of the journal, the originality of the paper, the innovation and importance of this particular research topic, how the paper is having its organization, how the contents are organized, whether this is going to attract the readers, and about the language issues, whether the language used is proper scientific language is used. Then, what is the research design? What methodology has been incorporated? How the analysis is done? How the findings have been represented? How the conclusions are represented? What are the limitations? Whether the future directions for research they have been incorporated, and how the literature review, the consistency of the literature review, relevance of the articles which have been referred. These will be some of the important points. The reviewers they will be or the editorial board they will be looking at the research paper. Good review report will be answering following areas: whether the work is novel, whether it is meeting some standards, what are the main findings of your research work. So this is one of the important area. What the reviewers or the editorial board is looking at your paper. If we ask these questions to our research paper on our own, if we look at our own research paper from third party angle and try to identify whether this particular research paper is having some novelty, whether the standards are high for our research paper, what are the main finding of this research paper, uh, whether the organization of the manuscript is proper, the writing, the language, whatever you have used, whether there is clarity, the figures, tables, graphs, illustrations, whatever you have used, whether there is clarity into this. If we have some experimental data, whatever declarations we have, whatever hypothesis we have stated, whether our experimental data is going to support those particular declarations or not, uh, what type of readers are going to get benefited from this particular manuscript, which section of the researcher society or which section of the readers area that is going to get attracted by this particular manuscript, whether if this particular paper gets published, because every journal, the paper which is going to get published, people should download it, people should read it, people should refer it into their research work, then only the journal is going to get benefited. So if the paper is not going to get attracted by the readers, the journal will not be interested to publish that particular research paper. And then what are the future directions, whether this research work can be taken up further, that is one of the important point that will be under review. Different forms of peer review. One is double blind, wherein authors and reviewers don't know each other. It is completely the the secrecy is maintained, confidentiality is maintained. Authors and peer reviewers they have completely they don't know each other. Then another type of peer review is editorial board peer review, wherein initially the editorial board members they will try to scan the manuscript, they will try to review the manuscript, whether it is fitting into the scope and aims and objectives of the journal or not, or maybe language, the structure, the formatting, and maybe adequacy of the literature which is referred. That can be under the editorial board review. And sometimes there some journals may be preferring open peer review, wherein the expert or the reviewers will be knowing whose paper is this. So they will it will be completely transparent process. People will the authors will understand to whom their paper has been gone for a review process, and reviewers will understand who is the author for this particular paper. But normally double blind is the most preferred way of uh, using preferred way of reviewing the papers, because it will be avoiding the bias, and it will be avoiding any prejudice in the review process. The review results, normally what we get, one is accepting without revision. This is very rare that you submit the paper and there is no revision. So maybe 1 or 2% papers uh, might be getting this kind of review results, that immediately the paper can be accepted without any revision. So any standard journal at least there will be some minor revisions required for whatever manuscript you have submitted. So another review results may be in the form of having minor revisions. So most of the things are fine, but minorly some revisions are required. Sometimes the reviewers may be satisfied with 60% of the part, but 40% some of the things might be majorly need to be revised. Sometimes there can be reject with the reviewers will be encouraging to resubmit this particular manuscript with some modifications, some major revisions into your manuscript. And the last, which is normally as author will be, we don't want this come to our way, that is reject. That paper is inappropriate to the journal or it is inadequate, and maybe the reviewers also feel that the paper should be rejected because there is no novelty, maybe adequate care has not been taken into incorporation of various aspects or the previous research work. So most of the time, 99% we can say the review process, whatever is carried out, will be absolutely giving the justice to the manuscript. 1% there can be some instances wherein the paper may be very good, but unfortunately it can get rejected. Standard timeline, first 1 or 3 months for the first editorial review. After the reviewers are assigned, 2 to 3 months for first review process. Once the review is conveyed to the author, if there is a resubmission required with revisions, 1 or 2 months they will be given for revising the paper and resubmit it. Again, 1 or 2 months will be required for uh, review of the revised version for your manuscript. And then if you get the acceptance, then after acceptance of the paper, you need to fill up the copyright form. Then there can be proofreading process. So you can expect after 1 month you will get the uh, final manuscript in the format of the journal to proofread. If there are any changes, you can minor changes you can incorporate. And once you submit your proofread with copyright form, then after that, around in 1 month, the manuscript will get online published. And depending upon number of issues and volumes the journal is having, how many papers they are incorporating into every issue, and how many papers they have got submitted and accepted by the journals, which issue your paper will get reflected into, that will be decided. So approximately we can say around 1 year, that is the timeline we should expect right from submission of the paper to finally getting it published. These are some of the very reputed publications which we should look at: Elsewhere, Emerald, Taylor and Francis, Springer, InterScience, Wiley, Cambridge University Press, Oxford University Press, IEEE. So these are the websites which you can refer, and you can go through the guidelines for authors. Importance of indexing, I will just rush through this. We have only 10 minutes left, I think, as per the time. So Scopus, Web of Science, Academic Journal Group, ABDC, Australian Business Deans Council. These are some of the indexing platforms. And if we want to publish our research paper, then we should make sure that whether the journal in which we are aspiring to publish our research paper is a part of these particular indexing platforms. Because if it is not a reputed journal, if the journal is not quality journal, this particular platforms, they will not be accepting the journal into their databases. And the journal is in this database itself indicates that the quality of the journal. So the reputation of the journal will be decided by the platforms, indexing platforms in which it is getting reflected. So if our journal is getting reflected into Scopus, Web of Science, AZG or ABDC, we can say the journal is of repute, and definitely we can publish our paper into this. Only one thing, one care we have to take is sometimes the journals are indexed into these platforms at some point of time, but these platforms, they go on reviewing the performance of the journals every year, or maybe twice in a year. If they find that a particular journal is not meeting their expectations, their criteria, a journal which is there in their database may also get removed from that database. So the point at which you are submitting your paper and the paper is getting published, at that point of time, if the journal is in this database, you can claim you have published in the Scopus Index or ABDC journal. But if the journal was in that database and now it is not in their database, then even if you have submitted and published, that point of time you cannot claim that this is Scopus indexed or Web of Science or ABDC kind of journal. So we have to make sure. I will just show you. If you on journal side, they claim this is a ABDC index, this is ranked in Scopus, this is in this and that platforms. But we should avoid, we should go for these respective sites, either Scopus or Web of Science or the ABDC list of journals, and try to check whether at this moment the journal is a part of that database. So, like in this case, you can see International Journal of Managing Projects in Business, Scopus coverage years from 2008 to present. So this present word is very important. So at this moment, the journal is into that particular database. If the journal is not in database, there may be 2008 to 2012 or 2008 to 2020. So if it is 2020, means after 2020 the journal is not indexed. We should not go for submitting our paper to this journal. So we need to cross check it before we submit the paper to any journal, that at present whether the journal is part of this particular standard database or not. This Web of Science, ABDC, normally they classify the journals into A star, A, B and C category. So you can see this is a 2019 list. Around 982 journals are in C category, 850 journals are in B category, 651 journals are in A category, and only 199 journals they are in A star. So even if we take the summation of this 982 plus 850 plus 651 plus 199, it is around maybe 2500, around this 2500, 2600. There may be 10,000 plus journals which are worldwide available. Out of that, only 2500, 2600 journals are listed into ABDC. Out of that also, only 199 they are in A star. So if somebody publishes a research paper in A star journal, that is a wonderful achievement a researcher can have. Even if we can publish in C or B category, that can be considered to be a significant achievement. Academic Journal Guide (AJG), they classify the journals into 4 star, 4, 3, 2, 1. So again, like here it is A star, ABC. They have 4 star, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then Shimago Journal and Country Rank, there are 27 thematic areas and 313 specific subject categories. More than 5,000 international publishers they are incorporated into this, and 239 countries worldwide they are part of this Shimago journal ranking. Normally they divide the journals into 4 quarters: Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So 25% top journals they are in Q1 category. Next, 25 to 50% that is in Q2, 50 to 75 they are in Q3 category, and 75 to 100, the last 25% they are in the Q4 category. So we should be able to understand our journal whether it is in Q4, Q3, Q2 or Q1 based upon the subject area. They try to it is not that all the journals they will be classified like each subject area. They try to classify what are journals they have been indexed: top 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 75 and 75 to 100. That's Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Identifying the right journal: the journal should be well recognized, the journal should have regular readership. So once you see the readership of the journal, how many years of existence the journal is having, that itself, if the journal is 50 years old, 100 years old, definitely it is a reputed journal and we should incorporate that journal into our basket. Whether the journal is providing encouragement to the author, what is the scope of journal, our research area and the scope, whether they are matching or not, and what is the review process. So there must be a rigorous review process, then only we can say the journal is a recognized journal. So this is a sample. Uh, this is one of my paper which was submitted on 22nd November 2019, revised on 23rd March 2020. That is the first revision. 27th August 2020, second revision. 4th November 2020, that is the last revision, and then on 4th November 2020 the paper got accepted. So 22 November 2019 to H index, in just crux I will mention, journal will have different citations. Citations are nothing but how many research papers they have referred your research paper, and based upon how many research papers you have, out of those research papers, if we try to put all the research papers into descending order of the citations you have received, number of citations and number of research papers we have to cross check. H is the number. If your H papers have got H or more than H citations, that is your H index. So just I will show my own H index and then we will discuss. Apart from H index, there is one more index which is I-10 index. This is simple. It is specified by Google Scholar. So number of research papers, those who have got 10 or more than 10 citations, that number is your I-10 index. So just I will go for my own example. You can see these are the research papers. This is a Google Scholar profile of my own. These are the research papers, and according to number of citations, the research papers they have been identified or they have been listed. First research paper 58 citations, second research paper 50 citations, third research paper 35 citations, fourth one 5 citations, fifth one 5 citations, sixth paper 3 citations. So in this case, I have 5 research papers, research paper 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 research papers which are having 5 or more than 5 citations as far as the Google Scholar database is concerned. That's why you can see my H index is 5. So H index is H number of research papers having H or more than H citations. So if I want to calculate the research H index for any researcher or any institution, I should first identify all the research papers, sequence them according to the citations they have got, right from the highest to the lowest, and then try to identify the number of research papers which have more or equal to that particular number of research papers. Okay, and you can see in this case, research paper 1, 2, 3, these 3 papers are having 10 or more than 10 citations. So my I-10 index is 3, which is defined by Google Scholar. So 3, I-10 index 3 indicates I have 3 research papers having more than 10 citations or 10 citations, and H index 5 indicates I have 5 research papers which have 5 or more than 5 citations. Now this is about the Google Scholar profile. If I go to my Scopus profile, even though I am the same person, here you can see the H index is 3. Here you can just see the number. Total citations are 92 and H index is 3. Why H index is 3? The different research papers, they have got 33, 32, 24 and 3. These are the citations. So there are 3 research papers which have 3 or more than 3 citations. So that's why my H index is 3. Scopus will not be defining I-10 index because I-10 index is the property of Google Scholar. Only Google Scholar is going to define I-10 index. Others are not defining I-10 index. Some suggestions, we are moving towards the end of our session. Selecting the right journal, having appropriate scope, indexing of that particular journal, that is important. Read the instructions to the author very carefully. Give proper attention to the literature which is published in last 5-10 years, recent, and most importantly in the same journal. Carefully we should give attention to the grammar and punctuation part, and whenever you get the review reports from the journal, each and every issue which is mentioned by the reviewer, that needs to be addressed carefully. Effect of poor grammar. If our language has certain issues, we being in India, English is not our mother tongue. We are not expert in English. So if there are any language issues, automatically the questioning about the paper quality, that comes especially at the global level. If we are submitting to some Indian journal, maybe they may not be looking at that, they may not be giving much focus. But if we are submitting to some global publisher, language will be one of the most important issues they will be looking at. So these are some of the very common suggestions for grammar punctuation that any language expert will be able to help you out in this. Common mistakes: selection of wrong journal, plagiarism, which should be avoided, preparation of the manuscript not appropriate to the respective journal, poor literature survey, literature review, that can be one of the reasons for rejection. Presentation of the results, if they are not strong, if they are weak discussion, then that can lead to a rejection. Conclusions, if they are not written properly, significantly, that can lead to rejection. And how you are responding to the reviewers. If you are poorly responding to the reviewers, you are not addressing all the issues, that can be one of the reasons for rejection. So if we want to write a literature review paper, basically we should go for identification of primary and secondary keywords, which will be able to give us multiple papers, articles published in that area. Literature review, we should at least consider 10 years of span. Conference paper, thesis, or blogs, website articles, we should exclude. We should only incorporate the top rated journals. We should select the journal papers from highly reputed journals, publishing houses, and we can go for analysis of the various papers according to the journals, the application, the methodology, year of publication, the objectives, the methodologies which are used, etc. Rejection of paper may not be the end of our research journey, as rightly quoted by Thomas Alva Edison. If I have failed, it is not that I have failed, but I have found thousand new ways of understanding what won't work, or how I can improve. So this is an opportunity. We should look at this in the perspective of an opportunity to uh, maybe improve ourselves and try to go for improving our manuscript. While we are going for revision, the review comments should be read carefully. Try to understand what is the opinion of the reviewer, and then respond as far as possible. Try to incorporate all the changes what are they have been mentioned, and if at all we cannot incorporate, we should politely justify why this suggestion cannot be incorporated into our manuscript. As far as possible, try to get connected with the platforms like ResearchGate, so that similar research interest people you can interact with, you can get the manuscripts, you can get the research ideas, and try to build your Google Scholar profile so that you can have your citations index. I will like to thank Dr. S.S. Manta, who was my research supervisor for PhD, Dr. Rane, who was my mentor for my PhD work, Dr. Vanita Bhula, who helped me a lot in understanding the research paper writing process, Dr. Subbarao, the Dean of my School of Management PG at MIT World Peace University, Honorable Rahul Karad, who is Executive President for MIT World Peace University. I am very much thankful to Dr. Prathamesh Poddar, HOD of Automobile Engineering Department at Parul University, and I will also thank all the reviewers, editorial board members of journals, through whom I got this small information. What I was able to be present in front of all of you, and also I will thank my parents, family members, friends, well-wishers for their support. These are some papers which have been published by me in Scopus Index journals. This is my brief profile. Already, Dr. Prathamesh he has introduced. This is all about my university, MIT World Peace University, which is the first university for life transformation. More than 40 years of existence, more than 1 lakh alumni at global level, 1,000 plus dedicated faculty, and the specialty is 100% students. They are provided with the internship opportunities. So this is all from my side. Thank you very much, and I will like to hand over the session to the organizers. If there are any queries, any questions asked by the audience, I will like to address to them. Thank you. Framing the title. Uh, Slightly there is some inconsistency in your audience. So tit- title of research paper. Okay. So title of research paper, basically it should focus upon, it should give clear idea about what the scope of your project or what is the scope of your research paper. So reading the title, audience should understand. Like if I am manufacturing some machine, I am testing the machine, and I am coming up with a design also of the machine. So my title of the paper will be design, fabrication, and testing of XYZ machine. So that can be the title, which will give clear idea about this research paper will incorporate the design aspects, the fabrication aspects, as well as the testing aspects of XYZ machine which is under consideration. If I am using some method, if I am using some specific tool for analysis, then I should mention it. Like in our domain, we have normally gone for some methodologies like ISM, which is a multi-criteria decision-making tool, or we go for TOPSIS. So we clearly mention using TOPSIS, uh, identification and analysis of the risk or ranking of the risk categories for a particular type of project. If I simply say ranking risk categories using TOPSIS, that is not giving clear idea. So ranking the risk categories for international projects, if I mention like this, then it is giving what you are going to do, for what you are going to do, how you are going to do it. So these all things in a nutshell, uh, in minimum possible words, we should be able to give clear idea about your entire research paper. So title is the first impression of your research paper in front of your reader. So maximum information that we should convey through the title, but at the same time we should not make the title as a paragraph. In a maybe 8 to 10 words, we need to represent the entire research work whatever we are carrying out. I hope I have justified your question. Yes. Anything else? Prathamesh sir, any other aspects? Prathamesh sir, are there any questions? Or maybe host, if you can come up with the question.
Hello. Sir, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Now
Yes,
you are
sir.
audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. There was some network issue.
So yes,
We
yes.
have
I
one more
was.
question.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, what are the tools and techniques used for validating the results?
Validating the results can be by different means. Like uh, in our analysis part, we go for structural equation modeling for validating the results which we have obtained. Or sometimes you can actually implement those results into some practices or your findings into some actual application and try to validate. You can take a case study for validation of your results, and through case study you can also validate.
Thank you, sir, for such a
Yes.
wonderful session. It is very informative for us, and it has also opened new doors for us for research.
And I think throughout
Once
the
again,
session, technically there was no glitch. Everything was smooth.
no, it was clearly audible because I
Okay.
have taken the feedback. So it was a wonderful session. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and for sparing your valuable time.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, I once again thank you from on behalf of Parallel University. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
thank
great
you,
to get
sir.
associated. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you once again. I'm requesting webinar team to conclude the meet.